All right, guys. So, per usual, I try to sell myself on a day on, day off review schedule, but then I watch something and it doesn't really happen. So, I'm doing a review tonight on a movie that is actually an Amazon Prime original that came out in 2019. This is a super independent movie, so I was really surprised that it was on Amazon and not on Shutter because this movie is such a Shutter prop piece. Um, the movie that I'm talking about is called The Vast of Night. Now I'm a little late on this, so I'm sure many of you have seen it. At least a couple of you have, but because I've had the UFO, UAP, alien bug since Disclosure Day and since the Burrows, I'm I'm keeping it going. Or we're keeping it. We're keeping it. Keeping it weird. So this movie takes place in the 50s, and it follows two young adults who work at a radio station in this old town, this town in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, where the population is very limited, and everyone, when there's a football game, that's like the event of the decade, the event of the year. And so during this big basketball game that's happening, our two main characters are doing a radio show, and they come across a frequency that someone recognizes over the air and claims that it's a UFO trying to communicate with the town. And thus starts this very intricate, very tight sort of journey slash chase that takes place in real time, really. And they're trying to figure out what this frequency is and if this means that there are aliens hovering over the town. And so they're trying to make contact. And I was so impressed by this movie. I was genuinely, while I was watching it, of course, I was starting out, I was like, oh, this is going to be like novel. This is going to be a really small, like, experience of a film where I'm going to applaud it for doing something ambitious and then, move on to the next. But I think as the movie progressed more and more, I started to see the intelligence behind what it took, the intelligence behind this movie's production to center it on a town and use very minimal buildings. I mean, the entire film takes place mostly in one building, then a little bit of the gym. You get some B-roll of the basketball players in the school gym, and then you get a couple shots of the houses. But most of it is, outside of that, exterior shots in this town that is made to look extremely vintage. It's all shot at night, so it certainly helps with keeping any continuity errors in the background kind of unseen. But the brilliance of a indie film like this is that if you shoot it at night, you can certainly hide any continuity errors and any bad CGI. So this movie already had that going for itself. It's so lived in. It feels so 50s. Even the start did a thing that the Burrows did, which was it set itself up as a TV episode to something like The Twilight Zone, down to, and I guess this is a thing with alien shows or alien films in general, is to replicate the intro of The Twilight Zone. And this one has its own homage to it. It does it very much in its own way. You can tell what it is down to the voice, and obviously the narration of the Twilight Zone. This has its own narration, but twisted in its own way. So it very much knows what it's sort of going for, and so it sold me immediately because you can tell that he knew, the director of this, Andrew, he had to put all of that love and care into its presentation in every way imaginable. There's a few scenes here that are bookended with them seemingly on an old vintage TV in black and white, very Nuketown TV screens, and then it'll seamlessly transition into the color scene, which I mentioned I would have liked the Burrows to have done, but this did really well. But the movie is simple in nature, but what that allows is to give the stories within this movie time to breathe. So while they're doing this broadcast, right, and they're accepting callers from the neighborhood, the man who recognizes this frequency, this alien frequency, tells his story about how and why he recognizes it. And during this time, he makes it a point to let you know that he is black. And this is important because he was part of a special program that only minorities were allowed to do, because they were dealing with classified information. And as a minority, black or Hispanic, or indigenous, you were not to be believed by anyone if you talked about anything declassified, because you were easily dismissed. This man talks about this frequency, and his story, when the movie is letting him say his piece, in certain moments the screen will go black and all you hear is his voice over the sort of static radio frequency. And it allowed for me, one, to kind of acknowledge that, okay, you're doing this for a reason, and then two, to pursue what he was telling me, and imagine it. And it did so much because it put you in a state of, like, whenever you're hearing a podcast and you're driving, like, it emoted that feeling of hearing something and painting a picture. So this movie is as much a visual piece as it is anecdotal. And that worked really well. There's another moment where another character, as we progress towards the main plot point, is telling her story, and we are focused in on her. But the way that everything is lit, the way that everything feels, the way that everything's presented, she is telling a story, but listening to her words and how she expressed them and what she was saying was so creepy towards the end, because she is telling the story that gets progressively weirder, and by the end of it, it gets dark. It gets sad. It just reminded me, put me in a place where, I would, I still go to these deep rabbit holes of exploration about UFO, UAP abductions, stories, wherever, online, YouTube, or just reading them. It sets a certain tone. It gives you a sense of nostalgia for these stories that build this sense of conspiracy and urgency in your head of things you probably never get to experience. And this movie captured that with its small budget. It made all of the people and the characters, down to the way that they look, down to the time, being that it's a period piece, down to the fact that this is all happening within an hour and a half. A lot of these characters are running from one building to another, or they're driving very quickly and it takes 2 minutes. Like, this movie moves. It understands that in its low budget, it has to create a sense of urgency towards this mystery that we are unraveling. I mean, everything in this movie, every minute, every second, serves this mystery, this otherworldly mystery that I was deeply enthralled by. And that goes to show that a movie does not need millions to tell a story that is enthralling and tickles at this primal need that we all have to, like, know things that are forbidden. This movie sits comfortably in a subgenre of horror, particularly UFO, UAP focused horror, that I don't think a lot of movies in this realm tend to touch. It's this sense of wonderment, yet very much grounded in, like, yeah, I've heard stories like this, or maybe you've had experiences like this, and this movie taps into that, where it feels so grounded and yet so nerve-wracking, because you wonder, what is this going to lead to? And what it leads to, without spoiling, is something that was grand. I mean, the final shot of this movie, the final act of this movie, when we get this resolve, and they have a big money shot that does involve CG, but I cannot tell you how perfectly executed this CG effect, this moment was, that it takes, just from observation, it takes so many levels of detail and intellect and understanding of lighting and CG and rendering to deliver this big moment, this big oomph moment for the viewer, This movie delivered that ending. It was so satiating. Even if it hadn't, I would have been like, "Yo, this was a good experience." This is one of the better UFO UAP leaning movies I've seen in quite some time, and it didn't need like hokey effects or creature or anything. It was just the journey of the mystery being at the front, and these characters being really interesting and well rounded, and the lore that was being built around it, and the urgency of these two characters just wanting to figure this thing out in real time. And then the last 20 minutes, it does something truly incredible, and the payoff feels so earned, and it feels majestic. And even in the last frame, they do something that sort of put a hook in me, where I felt like, wow, that was the way that you end a movie, and that is the way that you enhance a mystery. Because by the end of it, you have a sense of foreboding, for the sense of foreboding, like it's over, like it ended, but I want more. And not because you didn't give me enough, but because you presented this in such a wondrous way, and the emotion that you elicited from me is exactly the one that you wanted, which was a sense of awe towards this ending that delivered so much, doing just enough. I mean, it was truly great. This was a great movie. I cannot recommend that enough. If you like alien films, if you like UFO films, UAP films, this is really fantastic. And I will say it's not for everyone, because it is focused on the human experience and how far we would go to figure things out. The mystery is there, but the characters are the ones that are carrying this movie up until the third act, that leans more into the lore and the mystery and the slightly supernatural elements, without being so over the top that you just can't believe it. I mean, this movie grounded itself in reality so much, and did it so well, that when it built to that big money shot where we finally get to see something that is the exclamation mark of this mystery, you feel like it's earned. And I have no complaints for this movie, except that it's definitely not for everyone. I don't think if you don't have a normal attention span, this might not be the movie for you. It requires that you listen and that you sit patiently, and that's great, because this director squeezes every ounce of emotional real estate from every scene that he can, so that he can give you a rewarding end. Please, if it tickles your fancy and this is the kind of stuff you're into, you've not seen it, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It is a loving homage to the Twilight Zone, and it is a beautiful sort of partner piece to something like Project Blue Book, the series that I really love, or X Files. I mean, it could have easily been one of those episodes for those shows, except a little longer, because it's an hour and 30. Grand, man, grand, absolutely. Watch it. It's on Amazon. It's an Amazon original, so you can't rent it anywhere else except Amazon. But if you already have Amazon, this would be an easy watch for you. Anyway, that is my review for tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to more of the alien oddities that we've been bringing to you lately. There'll probably be a couple more down the pipeline this week, just because I still have that alien bug. But anyway, nonetheless, thank you guys for watching. And as always, I'll see you at the movies.